I call the March 10th Board of Ed meeting to order at 7:04. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Kiner for a moment of silence and pledge.
Heavenly Father, we ask that you guide us as we gather here this evening. Grant us eyes to see the best in one another. Give us ears to truly hear each other's genuine concerns. Help us to speak with kindness, listen with patience, and act with wisdom. Remind us that while we may differ in perspective, we are united in purpose to serve the students, teachers, and families of Enfield with integrity and care. May our decisions reflect not personal interest, but the greater good. May we have the courage to ask hard questions, the humility to accept good counsel, and the compassion to remember the real lives behind every vote. In this moment of silence, may we remember our shared mission and why we are here tonight. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Likely event of an emergency, you can exit through the back doors or go through the side door, down the steps, and out the back door. Can we have roll call, Ms. Lawler?
Mrs. Kiner? Okay. Mr. Anderson? Here. Ms. Proculia?
Here.
Mrs. Cushman?
Here.
Mrs. Gerard?
Here.
Mr. Gauss?
Here.
Mr. Kober?
Here.
Mrs. McGuire-Bruce?
I'm not getting any sound here at all.
Board Chair Pickett?
Here.
I don't think our microphones are working either.
I heard.
Mine is on.
I heard myself. Yeah.
Bobby, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
I don't think she can.
No.
We'll text her.
All right. Bobby, I'm going to have you mute yourself.
We'll be in touch.
I wonder if sound is working out in YouTube land.
Shut up.
Thank you. All right, we're having a few technical difficulties. Thank you for all of your patience. I'm going to ask for our first board guest and our only board guest tonight. I'm excited to hear about some updates to our preschool programming. Anything you'd like to add, Mr. Macchio?
No, I want to welcome to the mic Ms. Carroll and Ms. Dennis, Ms. Valley, and Mr. Lord. And they're going to give you a little bit of an overview of our current programming and a shift that we're looking at making for next school year. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming to us this evening, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. All right. Good evening. Tonight, we'd like to provide you with an overview of our plan to reconfigure our integrated pre-K program at Stowe Early Learning Center and Enfield Street School. Our integrated pre-K program is an inclusive early childhood program that brings together children with special needs and children who are typically developing to learn, play, and interact together. Our program provides high-quality instruction and support services such as speech and language therapy, occupational therapy, and physical therapy to foster social, emotional, and academic growth. Currently at Enfield Street School, we have 4 half-day sessions, and at Stowe, we have 7 half-day sessions. After reviewing the needs of our students, we wanted to create new opportunities for them and for their families. Specifically, we're looking to do 3 things. Increase access to full-day programming for eligible pre-K children who turn 5 after September 1st. Expand our pre-K continuum and begin to align our program with our pre-K to 5 vision for our elementary schools. So, with our new plan, we look forward to having at Enfield Street 1 full-day classroom for children turning 5 after September 1st, 1 a.m. session for 3 and 4-year-olds, and 1 p.m. session for 3 and 4-year-olds. At Stowe, We look forward to having 2 full-day classrooms for children who are turning 5 after September 1st, 1 a.m. session for 3 and 4-year-olds, and 2 p.m. sessions for 3 and 4-year-olds. And these sessions were determined based on projected enrollment numbers.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. So what does this look like? And so it's important to note that while change can be challenging, it also does create opportunities for growth of our children and our staff. So this projection is based on our numbers from birth to 3 and our current enrollment from September through December 2026. So it's important to note that our enrollment increases throughout the school year because of our birth to 3 numbers. So what that means is as students turn 3 and they're found eligible for special education, they are able to enter our program, either integrated preschool or itinerant speech, based on eligibility. So our half-day Enfield Street program would have 2 sessions, 1 a.m. and 1 p.m., and it would start and end through December, remember, of approximately 10 children per session. Our half-day sessions at Stowe, there would be 3, and it would be 10 to 12 children per session. Again, it's important to note that it's our birth to 3 projected eligibility that comes, that will increase those numbers, and these projections go again through December. We are going to strive for students living in the Enfield Street District attending Enfield Street, and students living in the Henry Barnard and Hazardville Memorial District attending Stowe. Again, I'm going to reiterate that this is going to be a strive to number as we have cutoff marks of enrollment. So our projected full-day enrollment looks like 1 session at Enfield Street, as Ms. Carroll said, and 2 sessions at Stowe, with a up to number of 18 children. And that can vary based on how many IEPs we have and peers we have. But our cutoff would be 18. Students living in Enfield Street, again, we would strive to. However, it's important to note that students that already made the transfer with our 2 teachers, Mrs. Curley and Mrs. Horn, they would stay at Enfield Street based on projections of numbers. This is a letter that's being generated and has been approved to go out to our families, explaining this new opportunity for them. Students and families will be notified of that full-time opportunity. And those who are going to be 3, we will be looking for peers because our peer opportunity students all have the opportunity to be full day for next year, which is a great thing. And if you're watching, this is our peer screener, RSVP. If you haven't registered online, you can RSVP on this peer screener QR code. We are going to have a peer screener day with 2 sessions, an AM session and a PM session that is slated right now for May 20th at the Stowe Early Learning Center in the FRC. Depending on how many people we have, we might also have an opportunity at Enfield Street. So that will go out to families soon. And again, the registration is it currently? It's currently an application that goes out. Thank you. That's it for our presentation, but open for questions.
Thank you. Sorry, we're still navigating some
Navigating
technical
this.
challenges, so I appreciate
Navigating, it's
your
okay.
your assistance here. First, thank you. I appreciate the presentation, the overview of what integrated is, and all of those pieces. I will say I'm an integrated mom myself. My now 5th grader was a peer in the half-day pre-K program way back in the day. So I do know there's going to be some questions. I think for me, I'm just going to start, and then I'll kick it off to folks. When you gave some class size numbers, you mentioned 18 students. What would be your cap of students with IEPs versus those with your typical peer match?
So we can't cap IEPs because they're federally mandated by law. So there would be no IEP cap. That's important to note, that students that are found eligible and are able to come to our program, they obviously will be able to come to the program because it's mandated by law, and the IEP would dictate that.
And then I guess my follow-up question to that would be support for the teacher, as far as the number of IEPs they're then supporting and implementing, and then the number of PPTs they're attending. So how do we envision, I'm looking at you all as admin, supporting that piece of the work?
Yeah.
So Amy and I will be monitoring closely the needs of the students in the full day and half-day sessions. We'll also be meeting with the teachers throughout the year to clearly understand what their specific concerns, questions, and needs are, and that we can work creatively and collaboratively with them to make sure they have the supports they need to run their classrooms efficiently, and most importantly, to ensure that all the children's needs are met, the children with IEPs as well as the peer partners.
Thank you. So those were just ones that were off the top of my head. I will now look to our colleagues. I'll start with Ms. McGuire-Bruce and then you, Mr. Kober.
Hi, thank you. My questions are similar, but how about staffing ratios for that? So I understand that IEPs are mandated, so you're going to continue accepting. You did say that there were caps or time frame caps. Could you explain?
So I think there's two questions that you have, and as far as staffing goes, there would be 3 paraprofessionals within the classroom setting and 1 teacher. So it is approximately 4 students per 4 students per 1 adult. As far as the cap goes, Ms. McGuire is going to call you Kelsey. Ms. McGuire, as far as capping goes, so it's not really capping. It is our Strive 2 number not exceeding 18, and that is based off of the accrediting agency recommendations and the numbers that we look at that Stowe currently already follows within their full day program. So we're matching what that is. And then I think what you're referring to is that birth to 3 piece when students come in. So it's FAPE by 3, free appropriate public education by the age of 3. Students that come to us from birth to 3, we meet through a transition. The school psychologist and I have a transition meeting, and then we determine if we're going to have a full referral evaluation or if we're accepting birth to 3. Not to get too detailed, but if the child is found eligible, there are 2 options a student can be found eligible for. One is itinerant speech. That's usually parents bring them in. It's 30 minutes to 60 minutes a week, and they have speech only. The other is our program, and that's the integrated program where we have our peers, and we have those students that require more special education opportunities. Those students would be in the classroom with the 1 certified teacher and the 3 support staff.
Okay, so we're looking at 4 staff to 18 students
Max.
max.
Max, yes.
So not just Strive 2, max. If it went over that, we would adjust, add classrooms, move kids around? Okay.
Mr. Kober?
Awesome. Thank you, Madam Chair. So thank you guys for the presentation. I like that it was kind of brief and to the point, so I'm all for that. I think my questions are kind of all connected. So I know Board Chair Pickett asked about the cap on special needs students. My understanding with integrated, it is a 1-to-1 ratio. Is kind of like the desired between a special ed student paired with a what we would call like a typical student. So I know you said there's no cap on special ed students that were admitted, so would presumably the cap be on the peers then? Like if we're talking about 18 seats per se.
Correct.
So the peer with that peer screener barcode you had, you're going to cap the typical peers at 9 then, presumably. Would that be correct?
Yes, that's correct. And it's also important to note that there are other opportunities for full day, including the STEAM program, and students that are trying to also, families who need the Head Start support. So Ms. Valley and I are working really closely to monitor that. And our peer screener, we will be looking for 3-year-olds, 3 and 4-year-olds, and that is still going to be half day. So there's going to be 5 sessions to really get peers in. And I do want to make sure it's iterated that this is going to, be family need as well. So questions have come up. If, the family needs the half day, then, we wouldn't deny that as well. But there are going to be opportunities for peers to attend sessions so that our ratios stay with what we're looking at.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Dennis. And then the other question too for with the special ed students that would
make sure
that we would, the special ed students that we would be accepting, I know you mentioned obviously a lot of them would be coming from birth to 3. Obviously, if they have an IEP, you would allow them entry in the program. I guess just to clarify, because IEPs are issued by the district, so these students aren't in the EPS system yet. So I guess could you just maybe speak briefly to like where is that IEP coming from? Is that like a document from birth to 3 that we're accepting, or?
No. So what happens with birth to 3? Birth to 3 comes to us with what's called a IFSP, which is an individualized family service plan. These students, some of them come right out of they have opportunities to be automatically eligible when they're born, and other students have up to the age of 3 to get services. So services for birth to 3 include speech and language, developmental, behavioral, OT, PT, etc. As they are referred, we are the LEA, we're the local education agency, and I get notified as the birth to 3 person that someone is coming up from birth to 3. We have a meeting. If a student needs an evaluation, we do an evaluation, but sometimes we can accept the birth to 3 reports, and that means that the birth to 3 report has been completed within a very short time frame of when their birthday is. We determine eligibility before their 3rd birthday, and we create the IEP. Then those students become Enfield Public School students, and they register and participate. So they register in Mr. Lord's building or Miss Valley's building with the school secretaries, and they get a welcome note welcoming them and guidelines that are specific on how to register to become Enfield students.
Outstanding, thank you. So my last question then will probably be, I guess, to the superintendent at this point, just because we had done our budget. So I know you talked about the staffing, 3 pairs, 1 teacher. So can you confirm the budgetary impact? Are these transfers within existing programs? Are these new hires, or what's that piece going to look like?
This is all with existing staff.
Okay, so would staff bid to transfer, or they would just kind of be reassigned depending on need?
In terms of which teachers would be considered the
correct, yeah, like
full-day
which
pre-K teachers,
teachers and
that
which
would
pairs.
all happen through conversation with Ms. Dennis, Mrs. Carroll, in terms of which teachers would be identified for. That's a collaborative process that I know they've already begun and they're having conversations regarding.
Okay, so then just to lastly confirm, it wouldn't create any new positions? These would all be
There are
existing?
no new positions that have been added to the budget due to the pre-K program being shifted.
Outstanding. That will conclude my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Coburn. Mr. Gauss?
I just have an add-on to Mr. Kober's question. If we had to cap 1 or 2 classrooms at 3 or 4 students and the rest being with IEPs, would we have to expand that staff?
I don't understand exactly what you're asking.
So you said that for the class of 18, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So, but you can't stop the students with IEPs from joining the class.
So it's strive to that 50-50 ratio, that 1-to-1. So we strive for it. We wouldn't need to adjust.
Okay, so
And I think, as I think you heard Mrs. Carroll say earlier, that this is something that we continually evaluate. So should we get to a point where we're concerned over the ratios, or we're concerned over the number of IEPs being off balance, I'm going to come forward to the Board of Education, explain what's happening, and much like I did this past summer, I would then make an adjustment in terms of, like, last summer I had to bring in 2 additional grade 4 teachers because we had an influx of students. I would do a similar type of process with this.
okay. And then just one more follow-up to that is, how much advance notice do you get so that you can plan out what is needed?
I'm going to answer, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Ms. Dennis has looked at all of our birth to 3 children that we are aware of coming into the district through December of next year.
All right, so there's plenty of time to work it into budgets and all that.
But again, I'm going to leave that to the expert in the room.
Yeah. And I can say that I've looked at the 3-year average. So the 3-year average is around adding 50 students to the program. 10 of those students are generally speech only. So 40-ish students are added to the program. So we've already anticipated the first 26. So that would leave around 24. Give or take, some are going to be speech and some are not going to be eligible. So it would increase each session by 4 to 5 special education IEPs at max at the current average that we have done over the course of my 3 years at preschool. Yep, that's the birth to 3 number. And then for Child Find is a little different of a process. Child Find is not birth to 3, but what happens is students who maybe don't attend preschool or attend daycare or move in from other districts, they do what's called a Child Find. That generally means a parent calls and says, I have concerns about my child's speech. I have concerns about my child's ability to regulate their emotions. My child's daycare teacher has said that they're not up to doing the same thing that their peers are. So we do what's called a Child Find. That brings us to what's called a screener. If at the screener we determine that a referral is needed, we go to that referral. So in 2023 and 2024, we had 18 Child Finds and 18 referrals. 8 of those 18 were not found eligible. 6 were found eligible, 3 were speech only, and 0 would have been the age that they could go to the full day program. In 2024 to 2025, we had 11 Child Finds, only 4 referrals, and of the 11, 7 were not eligible. 3 were found eligible for the program, and 1 was found eligible, would be eligible for that full day. This year, we're still in it, so we currently have, we've had 11 Child Finds with 5 currently in progress. So 6 have been determined, 5 are still in progress. 10 of the 11 were referred. 2 were found not eligible, and 1 currently is eligible for the full day program next year, and 3 were speech. So we're looking at, from Child Finds, about 1 to 2, sometimes 3, depending on the year. I can't predict what happens during the years, but we're looking at 1 to 3 average of students who would be eligible for that full day program based on my 3-year average.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that data. That's very helpful and impressive. Ms. Gerard.
So thanks for coming. And again, thanks for it being nice and brief. This is my life, literally in a nutshell, and how I and my family ended up at Stowe. So I just want to give my own personal perspective as a parent who had a child who ended up having a full day. Her day looked a little bit different than others. She was in integrated half the day, and then with a Head Start teacher who just happened to be part of the integrated program as well. Fantastic, fantastic program. The positive change that she made throughout the 2 years that she was at Stowe, having a full day at the school, was absolutely fantastic for her needs. As speech delay and social emotional and all of the other occupational and everything has been absolutely a fantastic support for her. And I think that this is such a good program to move forward. I love that, obviously, you've created a fantastic relationship within ESS to be able to do this. And I just really hope this moves forward. And like I said, as a parent that has gone through this and understands the process and how important it is for our children to then move into the kindergarten stage, because that was a big thing that I worked with Jacqueline on, was that what does kindergarten look like for my child, even though she has had the full day at Stowe, what does it now look like? It was a really calming feeling to have this transition happen from having a full day to then going into kindergarten with a full day in a different school. It was really, really good. I know some kids have a hard time transitioning, but I think this is going to be really helpful, especially with our ESS kids. So I'm 100% in support for this because I really think it's great. It also makes me feel good knowing, because this was one of my questions that Mr. Kober had, was that how is this going to affect us budget-wise? And this is fantastic to know that you're utilizing the teachers that are already there. So thank you. I think this is great.
Ms. McGuire-Bruce.
You just made me think of something. I think it's important for the public to hear too, like those students who are receiving services are being pulled out of their preschool experience to receive those services throughout that half day. So they'll have more opportunity now to have a true preschool program with peer role models and also still receive those services within that full day. So I think that's a great asset.
I do have a couple comments or questions. One is about our peer models. I know that it's been a challenge to get peers, especially for half-day programming, so hopefully full-day programming will be a little bit more attractive for people to sign up for. I wonder about LRE, or least restrictive environment, and how are we doing with offering peer models for our special ed students, and how are we monitoring that LRE, least restrictive environment experience?
I'll take that. I'll take that one. So every year we do what's called a peer screener, and it is a work in progress. All right. You know, the first year that I was there, we did it a little differently. We brought students in one-on-one, and then the last 2 years we've done this big peer screener. It is, you know, we want peers, but we also need to understand that peers need to be peers, and so we're looking at really defining what it means to be a peer. And I will say this, I think the hard boundary this year is going to be potty trained. So that's going to be a really hard boundary, is that peers need to be potty trained, because that's important for peers. And, you know, they're not coming in that way, but we're going to be really taking a look at what that looks like, what peers need to be able to do. Are they able to separate from parents? Are they excited about walking into a classroom? Can they sit crisscross applesauce for 2 minutes? Can they listen to a story? Are they kind to peers? Do they wave? You know, I think those are things that we are going to work at collectively as an integrated group, so that when we have a screener, and we do have a template, I'm happy to share it with you, that gives like points and percentages for certain things that we're looking for. So it's always in flux, because we're looking for that LEA and those positive peer role models.
Thank you. And then my next question is kind of seeing that supports are being split between 2 locations. Who provides the special ed support? So are we sending staff between Stowe and ESS, or is our special ed staff at ESS supporting the students at ESS? What is that looking like?
Yeah, so
You could take 2.
that's a great question. We have SLPs at Stowe who provide services to the children at Stowe. We have SLPs at Enfield Street who provide services to children there. Our occupational therapists are district-wide, and they divvy up their caseload. Sometimes we'll have 2 or 3 who serve certain classrooms within a school. So our occupational therapists, we have different OTs at times for Stowe versus Enfield Street, because they're district-wide. So that's speech, that's OT. PT, we have 1.6 physical therapists, and they divvy up their caseload as well. For the most part, there is 1 who is dedicated to the preschool program. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you. So speech and language services, those SLPs, are offered by the provider in their school. The rest are those district-wide positions that we're,
Yes. Yeah,
perfect.
you got
Thank
it.
you. Any other questions? All right, I will wrap up by saying that I'm excited to see that this full-day programming is being piloted, and that this does align with the work that we're doing with our pre-ref and our reimagining kind of this pre-K to 5 work. Thank you for the hard work that you do. Thank you for coming with the data and the answers, and all the people who might be able to answer questions. It's always great to see you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. And we'll move on to you, Mr. Macchia, with our superintendent's report, starting with our student reps.
Absolutely.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to start off with some great news. The culinary team of Enfield High are state champions, and they will be moving on to nationals next month in Baltimore. The Music Fest was a great, huge hit, and it was great to see the development of the music from 5th grade to 12th grade. I didn't get the chance to go, but I heard that the coolest part was seeing like the progression of middle schoolers to like as your senior year in high school, and also the middle and high schoolers mentoring the elementary students. And just, I got a good amount of class of 2026 news. First, we have a can drive this Saturday from 9 to 1 p.m. in the lobby of Enfield High. Be sure to come if you have some extra cans to donate. Very exciting news, the Enfield High School has announced their valedictorian salutatorian of the class of 2026. The valedictorian is Anthony Mamano, and the salutatorian is Bridget Kelly, so congrats, that's an amazing accomplishment. Save the date, we have senior prom, which will be held on May 22nd at the Springfield Marriott Downtown Hotel. It's in a while, but the theme is Midnight City, and more information will be coming out for that in a while. And I'm going to say this again, scholarships are still coming out, seniors. Make sure you are going to the guidance office, checking your emails. They send out new ones every week, so make sure you're checking. And finally, senior dues are now available to pay, and then you can pay those through Parent Square.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to be back. Right now is a prime time for Enfield High sports. The girls basketball team has a states game tonight against Bethel, and the boys hockey team just won a states game against Chippewa, and now they move on to play Wilton on Thursday in East Haven. Spring sports are also starting up on March 21st, so now is the best time to sign up. Both boys and girls tennis teams have informational meetings on March 11th. Boys volleyball has flyers in the PE office, and lacrosse has sign-ups open on Final Forms. And you can also reach out to any of the coaches on the EHS sports page. We also have the annual Enfield High Talent Show on the 19th, so come out and see the talent that EHS has. And lastly, from me, Spanish 4 classes have the Apple testing next week, so students need to get their testing permission slips signed and turned in. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Macchio?
Thank you. I do have a couple of updates for my section here. First of all, I distributed a couple of items to the board this evening. You should have an invitation for the National Junior Honor Society. That's at JFK on March 31st at 6:30 p.m. And I also provided each board member with a copy of, this is the first time we've taken part in this, but with a copy of the design and ad. These are the winners that came through. So basically what we have here is Reminder Publishing went out and had a whole bunch of businesses sign up for ads. They then assign those ads to particular classrooms or particular grade levels, and then there's sort of a contest, if you will, and then the Reminder Publishing folks end up choosing their winners and whatnot, and all the winners get placed into the ads. Or they come up with this publication. For the kids that were selected and recognized, I've been trying to get to as many of them across the district as possible, but there were a number of them. They received, obviously, a certificate of congratulations, but they also received a family 4-pack to a Springfield Thunderbirds game. So that's a nice little way for them to give back to their family, and you get a very cute publication here that comes out. So this is something that Reminder Publishing has done with some other area towns for a few years, and I was approached last year about it. Unfortunately, the timing just didn't work out, so we sort of postponed it to the fall, and I would imagine this would be something that you'll see happening on an annual basis. So congratulations to those kids. Invention Convention, I know I pushed it out and I received, I believe, Mr. Gauss. Thank you very much for signing up already. But Invention Convention is going to be happening this Saturday the 14th from 8:15 to 11:30. They're still looking for some judges. I know Mrs. McGuire Bruce.
She signed up. She's saying it for months. I'm already signed up, don't
Okay, all right. I didn't get an email back saying that you were signed up,
That's
so I
because I
can't
had
acknowledge
already
it.
talked to Mr. Ponte and made sure that I was set to go.
Well, unfortunately, I will not be able to attend that day, but look forward to, I have judged that in the past, and you guys will have a great time. Don't worry, there's a full training involved before you are allowed to judge. Teacher of the Year nominations was opened this week. So for any of our staff that wish to nominate one of our teachers to be Teacher of the Year, you can do so, and those nominations are due by March 20th. Fifth grade instrumental program. We've been trying. Mother Nature hasn't been cooperating, but we do have a new date and time that we pushed out. So the fifth grade instrumental program, this is just an information night, but that's going to be on March 17th at 6:30. It's at JFK in the auditorium. We are fully aware of the fact that that is also first readers. Mr. Doobie is on top of it, so if anybody is unable to attend because they have that conflict going with first readers, simply send myself or Mr. Doobie an email and we'll make sure you get all the information that you need to have about the fifth grade instrumental program. The other item, just a quick little update on, is the science of reading work that's happening across the district. So again, Mother Nature being what it was, it seems like there was a couple of different classes that had to be postponed and rescheduled, but they are continuing on. Just today, actually, we completed our third classroom walkthrough. So we did one at each school. We started at Enfield Street, then we had Memorial, and today we went and did a walkthrough at Barnard. So that walkthrough is where our assigned executive coach, as well as our reading support specialist, through the Science of Reading Masterclass, come in, and a huge shout out to Nick Flynn, our Director of Literacy, in terms of the look-fors that he puts forward and all of the data collection that he has. It's all organized and it all gets put into a computer-generated piece, and then we can all debrief with it afterwards. Because of all of the delays with the weather, the sessions have sort of been backed up, so we did the walkthroughs today. Thursday, we're down in Rocky Hill where the whole team will attend the next day of training, and that training is going to feature Nancy Boyles, and she's going to be taking us through skilled reading, comprehension, and fluency. And then we'll have another one, I believe, next month we go to. So this is a process that will continue on for the rest of the year, but I didn't want you to think that it sort of it was paused because of the weather, but we're still very actively involved with it. And my last update is thank you very much to Chase for not stealing my thunder, but I can proudly tell you that the Enfield High School girls went on to victory this evening, 51-33, so it seems as though as soon as I left, they decided just to pour it on, but they did win, so their next game will be this Friday, 6 p.m. at home. We do not know who it's against. It's either versus Ledyard or Stamford. I keep checking the CIAC website. They have not updated it to tell me who won that game. They played at the exact same time as us. So this Friday, 6 p.m., Enfield High School Gymnasium. I expect to see you there.
I'll be skipping dance on Friday.
I am not taking any portion. I am going to double check because I was completely in the wrong colors today. I'm going to make sure that I have on green of some sort for this Friday so they know who I'm rooting for. But congratulations to the girls. Look forward to seeing them move on. And I think Chase already mentioned to you about the hockey team and whatnot. So that's everything for me this evening.
Thank you so much. If you could let us know when you get the details of that game. I think we have multiple interested people. So thank you.
Which game? The hockey game?
Both hockey and basketball.
Oh, so just keep, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, keep us updated.
I will keep sending you updates.
Perfect. You do a great job at that. All right, public comment. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Few reminders that you've heard multiple times. Sorry. Each speaker will have 4 minutes. Share your name and relationship to the district. Times for your comments, not a conversation or Q&A with the board. Our role is governance, so please frame your remarks accordingly. Please remember that all comments become part of public record, so keep with our policy and state law. We ask that you avoid sharing confidential and personally identifiable student or personnel matters. We appreciate your feedback, and I'm going to start with Tricia Wright.
Is it on? Tricia Wright, 66 Oakwood Street, because I am town council trained. I am an alumni parent. I guess that would be my relation, and also a taxpayer. I'm here a month late, but I went to the third community conversation about the referendum, and I was blown away by the thoroughness, the thoughtfulness, I could not believe we've thought about this, and it's so nice to see a plan that takes the ripple effect. I spoke at the town council meeting last week and brought up the referendum because it actually coincided with the town manager's presentation. Also thoughtful, also lots of ripple effects. And Mr. Macchio, you were complimented with your forethought and future thinking. So I would like to encourage you to keep talking to the town manager. Communication is a huge thing for me. And I cannot tell you how long it's been that I got to go to a town council meeting and leave happy. I watched your budget meeting and it passed. Congratulations. with a lot of positivity, and not everybody's going to get what they want. But again, it was thoughtful. That was the word of the day. So I would like to encourage you all to keep talking to your caucus people. I'm a proud independent, so I don't have to talk to anybody. I get to do my own stuff. But I understand and appreciate the process, but I encourage you to keep talking. The referendum has to pass. To steal Mr. Daigle's last bit of words from the conversation, there is no plan B. It is not fiscally responsible to keep fixing things, as I admitted last week, and I will tell you all. Duct tape is my handyman at home, but that doesn't mean that that should be at the schools. So this is what has to get done. And what I was remiss in saying at town council, and I will say here, we are all responsible for where we are today. And I'm going to steal the town manager's comment on a different department with the town budget that he made a comment on, that certain choices were made. So we all made choices. We as taxpayers, we should have held people accountable more. Town council made choices, Board of Ed made choices. It doesn't matter why we ended up here, we're here. So we need to fix it. So I please ask you to be with your cohorts and partners in crime on the town council and your caucuses, and to explain that this is what we need to do for our town. The town manager has some great plans for our town. I think with his plans and the referendum that we can have a really great place to live and be proud of being an Enfield resident. So thank you again for all of your hard work. I went down the rabbit hole with budget season last year, and I watched all the department meetings, and I know they're not fun. I appreciate all your hard work, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Maureen Griffin.
Maureen Griffin, Abbey Road, parent. Olivia, you left one thing off. You guys did great at the Science Bowl, coming in second. Excellent job. The whole thing with the pre-K, integrated pre-K, I'm speaking from experience with our family here. That program is incredible. To see it, the concept of expanding it, and especially for the kids who are 5 and fall out of certain services, possibly, to keep them engaged in getting services, it's a great thing. I love seeing forethought. And it's budget neutral, that's nice, but that's not what's most important. It's an investment in our kids. And even if it's not going to be able to be budget neutral in the future, it needs to happen. Because true investment does require spending. Spending's good as long as it's thoughtful, directed, and well-planned. This program is well-planned. So if it requires more as it grows, because as they say, you never know what's coming because the kids just roll in. If it has to, it does. And one other thing, if people have thoughts and questions about transitioning from birth to 3 to integrated, from integrated to kindergarten like you were talking about, there is so much collaboration that happens. There's planning meetings, what this child's strengths, what they need. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. The staff at the integrated is incredible, and they are there for the kids and they are there for the family, and any support that they get, I'm 100% behind.
Thank you. Ooh, all right. On to board member comments. Anybody like to start? Mine's quick. Okay, Ms. McGuire-Bruce.
Mr. Macchio already started saying it. I was just going to shout out Invention Convention on Saturday. It's a great program. I had the pleasure of being a teacher for it for years, and it is open to the public. So even if you don't have a child who's doing an invention at 10 a.m., when the judging is over, you can come take a look. These kids are amazing at what they can invent. I've had students go to nationals for it. It is one of the best programs that we offer here in Enfield, and I encourage everybody to come out and take a look at 10 a.m. on Saturday.
Thank you. Any other? Mr. Kober?
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. So I generally strive to maintain brief comments. However, given we got some pending changes with our organizational bylaws concerning agendas and conduct of meetings, this may be my last opportunity for general board member comments. Once again, this is kind of a time during our regular meetings reserved for comments and questions regarding items or topics that are not in the meeting agenda. While I'm always one to advocate for efficiency, I'll just staunchly defend freedom of speech, thought, and press. I won't predicate all my comments on the bylaw proposals now, as they are, of course, coming up later this evening. But I do want to say I hope that if we move forward streamlining what we have on our agendas, that we incorporate additional presentations and guests coming before this board, as well as take the opportunities to publicly address, deliberate on, and act upon all government's items and issues within our purview. At our last meeting, I shared several observances during the months of March. One addition is that March is nationally recognized as Music in Our Schools Month, a time to celebrate the impact of music education on students, schools, and communities. There is truly no better time to recognize the growth, dedication, and accomplishments in the students of staff of Enfield Public Schools Music Department. Music education is far more than notes and rhymes. It builds confidence, discipline, collaboration, creativity, and collectivity, and perseverance. It strengthens academic achievement, fosters belonging, and provides students and opportunities to shine, both individually and as a class. Our ensembles are filled with students learning teamwork, leadership, and resilience, skills that last a lifetime. During his update, the superintendent mentioned the status of the 5th grade music instrumental program and the planned start date of March 9th having been slightly adjusted due to weather delays and cancellations the previous week. But pull-out instruction will soon begin at our 5th grade schools, including Parkman, Whitney, and Crandall. And this is a significant milestone towards rebuilding a strong and sustainable music program in our schools. March is also National Reading Month. This month is designed to highlight the importance of reading for education, professional development, and personal enjoyment. It is a time that encourages Americans of all ages to make reading a daily habit. Last week, in recognition of Read Across America Week and related school spirit events, I had the pleasure of participating as a guest reader in several of our buildings, including SELC, ESS, Barnard, and I also joined in on Crandall's Readathon. On February 28th, several members of the board, including myself and our superintendent, were able to join the First Readers Association of Enfield for their annual Trivia Night fundraiser. It was a wonderful time to see a nice turnout in support of their cause. To those not familiar with them, the group recognizes children who have been identified as independent readers by their teachers. The organization will be holding a community ceremony celebrating the next wave of EPS students identified as first readers, and this will be on Tuesday, March 17th. It will take place at the Enfield High Auditorium, commencing at 6 p.m. Last meeting, we did, and has already been mentioned, we approved our budget for the upcoming 2026-2027 fiscal year. Although I candidly shared my thoughts and perspectives throughout the process, I want to echo the sentiments that the product represents the manifestation of thoughtful recommendations, tough questions, and practical collaboration. While we individually may have sought out differences with certain expenditures, this budget demonstrates a reasonable compromise which balances district needs with fiscal responsibility. Regardless of affiliation, we recognize education is an investment in our community. The responsibility for appropriation now falls to the town council to judiciously review the request and fit it into their collective municipal budget that will deliver on town services, incorporate potential investments and enhancements, and balance the affordability our residents deserve, especially in the face of the wide-ranging picture, including local reevaluation of real estate and personal property, on top of ever-growing state and federal taxes. I do want to give a public shout out to the Lego Corporation and Furniture Trust Company. They've been organizing the donation of items to the Enfield School District. For those not familiar, Lego Group is closing its longtime America headquarters, which is here in Enfield, and they're moving to Boston. Lego, which has maintained a major presence in Enfield since 1975, and as part of their relocation and downsizing process, they approached the district about donating various furniture items. In one of our last weekly updates, we completed what we considered round 2 of the donation, and we were given a value of $113,595 worth of furniture that was donated to the district. So again, a public thank you. Included in this donation were standing desks, short filing cabinets, credenzas, tables, chairs, and such, and these donations will be for Enfield High, as well as the alternative program currently at the annex, which will be relocating to Alcorn. Back in the summer of 2025, there was phase 1 I didn't see that we had a dollar estimate, but furniture then that we had received from LEGO included room sets, tables, chairs, lounge chairs, and even some miscellaneous items, including whiteboards and recycle stations. Most items are in addition to our school furniture inventory. However, because of the influx, we were able to dispose of some furniture that we had to make room. Obviously, we dispose of furniture in poor condition, and in accordance with our board policy on reduction and getting rid of items, Board Policy 3620, we were able to return some of our old furniture and items to the town for either recycling or disposal. So at that time, just to quantify again the donation and what we were able to get rid of, our disposal during the summer was 94 teacher desks, 94 teacher chairs, 8 conference tables, 12 old conference chairs, and 4 visitor chairs. On February 20th of this year, the CSDE published a report called The Effectiveness of the Alliance District Program, and they sent it forward to the state legislator. Their findings illuminated both positives as well as areas for improvement with the Alliance District Program. Some key recommendations made include reimagining the Alliance District Program as what they call the Opportunity Network. CSDE would be potentially limiting support to a subset of districts and incentivizing districts in this planned Opportunity Network to use a portion of their grant for state-directed evidence-based programs. Based on their recommendations, this Opportunity Network would include 46 districts, which would include all of the 36 currently identified districts, which again Enfield is part of, which is why I'm saying this, which would be part of this Opportunity Network, as they plan to call it. The additional districts would be districts that exhibit a combination of the greatest student need and lowest overall performance, and they will receive, based on need, more intensive supports from CSDE. The remaining districts that would need less support would receive primarily desk monitoring and an ability to participate in professional learning opportunities. The approximate new districts that would be added would perceivably be smaller districts from eastern or northwestern Connecticut. So if this does come to fruition, it wouldn't change Enfield, it would just be a change of the label. Of course, this is only a recommendation. Changes need to go through the legislative process, and it may or may not come up this legislative session. But this is something, obviously, that Enfield should continue to monitor, provide feedback to the CSDE or state legislators, as well as other stakeholders and advocates. On the note of the current legislative session, last meeting, and the meeting before that, I mentioned that the governor's budget is going through its process. And we as a board, as well as the administration, are watching various proposals go through the process. I just want to publicly highlight General Assembly Bill 5468. This is an act concerning the provision of equivalent instruction. There's obviously broader dialogue here concerning parental rights if this is to pass, but this is an act aimed at homeschooling. And I bring this up because it has the potential to be what we call, and what we've discussed up here is a, quote, unfunded mandate, with a burden to local Board of Eds when it comes to things like forms, record retention, data reporting, as creating a new class of students that would be partially enrolled. These partially enrolled students could participate in extracurricular athletics and activities and take up to 2 classes in a public school. While no final bill has been signed into law, and I obviously won't lobby for an impact one way or another, I say this to share information and explain to the public how many of the educational decisions are made by the state legislator and not by us, your local BOE. Nevertheless, given budgetary and policy impacts, it behooves us to monitor things such as this coming down the pipeline, and I encourage all stakeholders to stay informed and advocate for themselves. Last Thursday before last, also at the state capitol, there was an quote, emergency certification of a bill, and that just means it kind of bypassed public hearing and committee votes. But one of the important things in there is it included a sunset on the option of districts issuing waivers to children that are not yet 5 years old before the kindergarten cutoff date of September 1st. This will take effect in the fall of 2027. For those unaware, previously, children could enroll in kindergarten as long as they turned 5 years old by January 1st. But that law had changed starting with the 24-25 school year. However, local districts were empowered to approve waivers and have children attend kindergarten early if requested by the parents and caregivers. As a district, EPS established that administrative process in place to authorize waivers, and school administrators were empowered to make assessments and approve waivers. Given that the upcoming 26-27 school year will be now the last year local leaders have the authority to issue these waivers, I encourage us as a board to pass a policy consistent with our practices to ensure that children affected by this birth date cutoff still have the option of entering kindergarten early on those waivers. Once again, obviously, this changed for the 2027 school year. We won't have the ability to do that, but this is something, obviously, that affects a good cohort of the student population, and students are potentially would be delayed beginning public school. They would require an additional year of either preschool or daycare. All right, with each new term of the board, we are given a unique opportunity to identify and prioritize certain topics to analyze and act upon. During the last board term, we had looked and created a mental health and wellness committee, which regularly met and engaged stakeholders and had publicly presented a final report to us during a regular meeting on October 14th of 2025. I applaud that effort, and I hope we continue to reference their findings and recommendations as we govern into the future. After following the last election, I had floated the idea of establishing a special committee on special ed for this current term to both political caucuses represented on this dais in order to identify challenges and opportunities and propose solutions. While there wasn't a buy-in to move forward with this resolution, we had concurrently completed our new contract with one of our subsets of unionized staff. In that collective bargaining agreement with the ETA that is effective next year, we actually had a clause that established a advisory committee to the superintendent on state and federal special education law, which will be chaired by our Director of Pupil Services. While this is short of the board-level committee I would like to see us establish, this nevertheless provides a focus group to be convened to review issues, make recommendations, especially with something as complex and evolving as special education-related law. I'm glad the negotiating teams for the BOE and ETA concurred on the need to monitor legal mandates and laws related to special ed and updates as it relates to our district. I look forward to hearing from this group, and especially from the superintendent, on any issues that we could do that falls within the board's purview to address, such as district-level policies, curriculum, and budgetary impacts. I will conclude with my customary quote: "If you believe it will work out, you will see opportunities. If you believe it won't, you will see obstacles." This is by Wayne Dyer, an American author and motivational speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kober. Any other comments? Oh, Mr. Anderson?
Thank you. I'm making these comments tonight more based on the fact that we're very likely going to be losing member comment during the policy updates. And I have mixed feelings about that. They can tend to be overused, used for purposes other than Board of Education information. But they can also be helpful in getting out information and bringing subjects to light that may not come to light without that. I had a speech written down that I'm not gonna get into because it doesn't really serve a purpose of solving anything. It more makes a statement, and that's not going to help anything. I think that once we get to the conversation about the policy updates, I think we should really take a hard look at whether we want to make some of these changes or not, because some of them are maybe bigger than we're thinking they are. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Mr. Gauss?
I'd like to comment first on something that Olivia mentioned earlier, and that it was Music Fest. Being the parent, uncle of music students, my students are long out of the system. At the time, it was String Fest, not Music Fest, but same idea, where beginner kids are working with all the way up through seniors, and it benefits both the kids and the parents, because the parents get to learn that these instruments will not always sound like a herd of strangled cats. And from my experience, it was the only time, because of the difference in age, it was the only time my niece and son got to play together on stage. And I'm reminded of that because through Facebook, you get reminders of history and everything else. And all this week, I have had their various concerts pop up, and I got to watch them. I enjoyed that. I also had something prepared about the possibility of losing member comments, but I think that's better discussed while we discuss the policies. I think that's going to be it for me for this set of member comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member comments? All right, I will close us out. First, I want to echo Olivia's comments and Mr. Gauss's comments around Music Fest. My kiddo played in the band. He got his practice drum set today, so he will be beginning that program as well. I got emotional hearing especially the chorus singing all together. I thought that was incredibly beautiful. And I want to shout out Miss Cushman because she was there as well. And I saw her in the audience with Miss Acree as well. And I wanted to give a congrats to our culinary program, let folks know that they will be coming as a future guest. And to some of Mr. Kober's comments, we are working very hard on creating a more structured agenda around board guests and board reports. So hopefully that will shine through as we move forward. I also want to shout out our other student rep, Chase. He will not give himself credit, but he was not here at our last meetings because he was busy doing humanitarian work in Belize, correct? So thank you for your leadership and your nonprofit work. We are incredibly proud of you, and we're glad to have you back. Mr. Kober, I also want to thank you for mentioning the Alliance report. That was in my comments, stealing my thunder. This report is publicly available at ct.gov. I encourage folks to check it out. And thank you to LEGO as well for their support of our schools. As far as the legislative session, I want to thank you, Mr. Macchio, for your advocacy and testimony on numerous bills. I also want to thank Ms. McGuire-Bruce, where I know she's been advocating at the legislative session, especially around ECS funding, so thank you for your work there. The public, you can find information on bills, see posted public testimony online at the Connecticut General Assembly website. I encourage you to follow those. There's many that impact education. Phil, I also just want to make a public comment regarding the special ed committee that you have proposed. I think it is a great idea to be looking carefully at special ed. We've been hearing a lot about special ed programming through the pre-ref work and through various presentations. I will say it's not a no. It's in a holding pattern at this point to think about upcoming presentations and kind of what's the role of the board in that work. So thank you for your continued collaboration and ideas you bring forward. There was also a 5th grade night at our youth center. They've been doing that for the various schools. I really appreciate that partnership with our youth services and the programming that they provide. I also want to give a shout out to our student rep, Olivia, who was a student volunteer there. So our students are doing so much work out in our community, and I just thank you both for what you do. I, too, participated in Read Across America. I had the chance to visit Enfield Street School, Stowe, and Crandall. And then on March 30th, I just want to remind the public that we will be presenting our Board of Ed budget to the Town Council, so please make sure that you are keeping an eye out on that meeting. And then I'll close out my comments regarding this month is National Women's History Month, and I got a text from Miss Allegro on the Town Council that March 21st is National Teen Day, and that we do have amazing teens here in Enfield, and they deserve to be honored, so make sure you do something special on the 21st. All right. Now we will move on to, I think, the much anticipated discussion and possible approval of the 9000 series. Before I hand this over, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that this work, the work that went into these, it's been thoughtful, bipartisan process. Again, remind the public that we do subcommittee work. It comes to a first reading. We get lots of feedback. It goes back to subcommittee for additional work. It comes here for a second reading. Both caucuses spent countless hours reviewing, discussing, and refining our language. We do have that established procedure that we follow. So now I'm going to pass it over for a motion.
I'd like to briefly restate that the replacement of the 9000 series policies has involved the extensive bipartisan work just mentioned between both caucuses as we transition from the CABE policy model to the Shipman and Goodwin policy set. While there was broad agreement across the series, the areas where we were not able to reach unanimous agreement were primarily limited to two topics. First, removing board member comments as a separate section, as mentioned already by board members Kober and Anderson. Several of us also had mixed feelings at first, but through discussion and analysis, this is something that is not typical practice among most local boards of education and which the board already discussed the benefits of at our last meeting. I will clarify that it in no way limits freedom of speech. We aren't losing anything. It is a structural change. There are several ways to add agenda items, and we may comment on any presentations or other components of the agenda. So there are ways to bring things to light, including through our committees, which has just occurred on our upcoming policy committee agenda. If we need to discuss something, it should be placed on the agenda, and it is our responsibility to follow through on that. Second, there was a concern around clarifying the procedure for factual corrections. That provision simply formalizes a streamlined process for addressing objective factual errors, something the board already does in practice, and which helps ensure the accuracy of our public record. We revised this policy based on feedback for the second read. Moreover, at some point, we have to move from discussion to decision, and we have more than reached that point. However, we discovered that Section E of Policy 9020 was included in the version brought forward for second read in error. That section had been removed at the committee level, but did not carry through into the draft presented to the board tonight. Therefore, I move that the board repeal the existing 9000 series policies and adopt the revised 9000 series policies, replacing them in their entirety with the correction or amendment that Section E be removed from Policy 9020, which you have a copy of in front of you.
Second that motion.
Motion moved by Ms. Berculio and seconded by Ms. McGuire-Bruce. Now we are open for discussion. I'm just going to start this discussion after hearing through comments around the board member comment of the agenda. I will say this has been something we've had lots of conversation on. Mr. Kober, I think you were interested in eliminating this quite a long time ago. At that point, I was anxious or uncertain about what that would mean. I think we have been working really hard as a leadership group to restructure our board meetings to be intentional around presentations, board guests, and keeping the business of the board at our focus. I also want to remind folks that much of the updates that we give during our board comments could come up during school updates or could be formally requested if it's a communication of the community to go through our secretary and communications. So I just want to reiterate that as well, that there are opportunities to share that information at other points in our agenda. So I will open it up for discussion. Mr. Kober.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll kick us off. So during the first reading of these slate of policies, I shared my thoughts on each of the proposals of each policy as they came up. So I obviously won't repeat everything again. And I do want to shout out Policy Committee Chair Berculio had reached out to clarify some of my comments, and I had forwarded her a copy of my notes. So to summarize, I am glad board members worked collaboratively and bipartisanly on this to date. As mentioned, I recognize the difficulty, yet of trying to reduce policies, at the same time maintaining and refining a framework of procedures to reference. So it shouldn't be a surprise that I'm in favor of reduction of policies, but at the same time finding that balance of keeping policies. One of the things that came up during a recent conversation is a question that arose in our caucus is if we had the ability to action these policies individually rather than as an entire chapter or slate. This would have allowed for a little more focused discussion with a clearer picture of the changes that have unanimous support versus those specific ones that don't. I know this is kind of maybe unprecedented for us where we've never actioned an entire chapter at once because this will include the second reading approving all the new policies, but in that same token, it will repeal several policies within the 9000s. And I want to make sure we kind of recognize that and maybe address some of that as well. So again, as I mentioned during board member comments, and we've had copious discussions on, but again, to repeat some of the stuff publicly, just for everyone's situational awareness. I was, previously also on the fence with board member comments, and I had favored possibly a time limit. But at this point, like the outright removal of board member comments is something that I would oppose. While, again, the desired intent of this is efficiency, I do feel like it strikes maybe the pendulum a little too hard towards reducing free speech and candid discourse. And again, this is kind of something unprecedented, at least for our Board of Ed here, understanding that other boards may not have board member comments like we did. During this process, I took some time, again, looking back at previous meetings. I thought it was interesting. I went back as far as May of 2023, and at the time, Board Member Pickett at the time had made a comment that after public comment that we can't address or we can't have back and forth with audience members, but we can, quote, address comments they made during our board member comments, end quote. So again, this is something, again, opinions change, and if the second reading passes, that will no longer be the case, that we could do that to provide immediate feedback to members of the public. I'm also glad that we did identify regarding proposed policy 9020, transaction of business, that initial paragraph E that related to factual clarification and correction of the record was at least removed out of that transaction of business policy. However, now it was shifted and reworded slightly in policy 9220 on minutes. Well, I'm glad we had some bipartisan conversation with that. From an individual standpoint, it still doesn't meet the threshold of a justification to have that language for me. It's something that wasn't provided by our policy service from Shipman and Goodwin, and I still see a potential to misuse it and potentially initiate theatrics of, what is a fact, what is not a fact, and then, who determines that, or would we potentially put the superintendent in a tough spot if it's something where we're, two people are making an argument and we're letting him be the judge of that. So I understand that in our current policies, obviously we amend minutes as they come up. Sometimes it's administratively. If it's substantive, we'll do it in a meeting. But I think this factual clarification and correction of record, even as has been amended, is still something I'm not fully supportive of. Also, I think I mentioned during the first reading, even like policy 9005, board member governance standards and conduct, it's something, it's not based off the Shipman model policy. So I agree it has a lot of useful guidelines on roles and responsibilities. But again, now for balancing the streamlining, this is something we could have truncated down in maybe one page, or could we have added those paragraphs into other policies instead of having it a new standalone policy? And again, specifically like policy 9010, number of members, terms of office. This is something that is covered already by the town charter and the state law, so regardless of what our bylaws say, they won't supersede those. So if we wanted to reduce a policy, I think that would have been a good one where we could have just cut that policy out. As I also mentioned, I want us to be cognizant of the policies that we're repealing through this. I know in the initial first read, I think there was some that weren't identified during the collaborative policy committee work, and in some of the conversations we did identify, and we did save some of them, including some of the language in our organizational meeting, the board consultants, and the recording clerk duties. However, I noticed what didn't make the cut in some of these policies that we would be removing, which is like our current policy 9125, which relates to our board attorney. I think this is a useful guideline. It also includes a provision for an annual evaluation of our attorney by the board and the superintendent. I think this is something we probably didn't do, we had a policy that said we should do it, but I think that is something important, especially when we're contracting services. It would be nice to see evaluations and stuff like that. So I'm not saying that's a reason we got rid of the policy, but I noticed it's something that is now going away, and we won't have a framework for that. Another example of a policy that we'd be losing is 9326.1. This is taping and recording of board meetings. This policy was recently revised last term. Second reading passed May 28th, 2024. Based on past practices and questions. I remember we had some conversation then as that was a useful policy. Obviously as public officials in a public meeting, there's no expectation of privacy. We're on TV, this is recorded. But that policy provided some useful information. Even going back years ago, there were questions and concerns about like people in the audience recording board members with individual recording devices and stuff like that. And I think this was a useful policy to at least have it and say, hey, is it in compliance with that policy? So those were some of the highlights I had. So at this point, I'm not proposing any amendments or changes. I understand, and I think the policy committee chair Bacuglio said, we're at the point. This is a second reading. This is a decision matrix. We did have some good conversation. There's still some stuff that I would like to see differently. And I think that's all I have, so I will yield my time to other members.
Thank you, Mr. Kober. Any other comments? Mr.
Yeah, I also oppose adopting the entire slate without breaking it up and having discussions specifically on 9180, the agenda and board member comments. Of course, Mr. Kober already addressed most of what I had to say, because he always does for some reason. He's smarter than me. But I just think it's really important to be able to, like he said, sometimes we definitely don't want to have the back and forth with audience members, but sometimes it's a quick and easy answer to a question that we can address. And also there's, there are times when something has to be shared. And I just think even if it's something like a change to it, and I'm not proposing a change now, but something to the effect of to address audience members or with a time limit would be something that I would find acceptable. One thing that bothers me is the idea of making the meetings more efficient. As a new board, we've been more efficient than any meeting before the time that we were all installed on the board, and I think that's great. And sometimes things need to move a little more slowly so we have time to think and respond appropriately rather than bulldoze our way through something. And I just want to share that. Yeah, I think that's probably the most important part of what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Mr. Gauss. Any other comments? Ms. McGuire-Bruce?
I just wanted to thank Mrs. Cushman for bringing forward all the suggestions from her caucus. I know previously it was mentioned how many there were. There were a lot, how many were proposed and accepted at a prior meeting. It was truly a pleasure to work collaboratively with you on this. Your understanding of policies, your knowledge and perspective on these policies was so important and helpful for me as a new board member, and I just wanted to publicly thank you for all your support in that. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cushman?
I do appreciate the process, and I feel like both sides felt heard, as we had our discussions and our marathon meetings. But, we really were willing to invest the time, and I felt like everyone felt like their perspectives were appreciated and valued. And the time that you put into kind of weaving in those ideas and suggestions into the policies that we have. So it was good. For the majority of the policies, there is a strong majority support. And so going into this vote, the one thing that I regret is voting for the whole series all at once, because I feel like that will not truly reflect the majority of those policies, the support that the board has for the majority of the policies. Because certainly board member comments has been one thing that's come up very frequently, and as one who does not generally have board member comments, it wasn't something that was that I felt particularly strong about keeping personally, but I recognize even just in tonight's board member comments, as I was watching, listening to Mr. Kober and Ms. Pickett, just sharing about the different things. It just reminded me of one of the policies says is about keeping the citizenry informed, and that is what you're doing. But there have certainly been meetings where it's just board member comments have just taken us so far off track that it would be good to stick with the agenda. So I do. I know we've got many more series to work through, and we learned a lot going through this process, and I look forward to the work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cushman. I will make a comment on that. I've already reached out to Mr. Macchio about, since we will be looking at the 1000 series next, how can we work through that process and adjust our maybe procedures moving forward. I will say there was some thought about how we move these policies. Since we are repealing them, there is not a one-to-one match. So once it's repealed, then taking out some could cause some concern. I also will just reiterate that this has been a very extensive process that we've gone through, that we have done consistently through policy subcommittee with the subcommittee work, first reading, subcommittee work, second reading. So I appreciate those comments, and I do want to acknowledge the overall support of the policies. And just again, reiterate to the public, it seems to be two that are really hanging us up out of this whole batch. So we will move forward with the full replacement. I also, is there any other comments? Sorry, before I keep going on that. Mr. Anderson.
Kind of a question more than a comment, but it wouldn't be possible to pull those two comments or those two sections out, vote on the rest of it, and then discuss just those two subjects?
You would need to make a motion to do that.
I would like to make a motion to do that.
Second.
Yep.
Can we just make sure for the minutes that we have the numbers of the policies that we wish to do that for? Sorry, guys.
So, Mr. Anderson, I believe 9220, the proposed policy on minutes is one, and then I believe 9180.
Yes.
Regarding construction of the agenda.
So we have a motion by Mr. Anderson, a second by Mr. Gauss. A hand vote on that motion. So all in favor?
I'm sorry, I just want to clarify.
Yep.
We're pulling those two out to have further discussion on it, or we're holding that to, I just want to make sure I completely understand.
A separate vote on those. So we would move on a vote for the bulk of the policies, and then they're proposing to pull those two policies out and vote on those separately.
Okay, thank you.
Just for clarification, you have a first and you have a second on the floor. You now should have discussion regarding the motion that's been placed. Then you can have your vote on it.
Perfect. So any other
Then
discussion?
that will tell us what to do next.
Beautiful. Any other discussion? Mr. Coburn.
So I'll just add to, and again, just to clarify for those that may be watching. So one of the things that came up is obviously the main motion here refers to an entire chapter being repealed and replaced, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. So the incidental motion made by Mr. Anderson would pull two of those proposed policies out so they could be a separate item. So this amendment motion is whether or not we pull them out of the main motion. Hopefully that makes sense for board members and the public.
I know Ms. Kiner's having still some technical issues, so there's a little bit of a delay. So we will do a hand vote for this motion. I'm going to pause for a moment. If you are in favor of Mr. Anderson's motion of pulling those two policies out, please raise your hand. That would be 4 in favor. If you are against pulling out those policies, please raise your hand. We're going to patiently wait here, maybe.
If we do counter as an abstention, the motion would still fail.
Yeah.
Because you'd need a majority for it to pass, yeah.
Yep.
I think it's important that we know if it's an
Yes.
abstention or.
Yep. Bobby, we're waiting for you to vote on. There we go. 5 against. So that was 4 in favor, 5 against. So that motion fails. We're back to the original motion of repealing the 9000 series full replacement and making the amendment to remove section E from 9020. Any other discussion on that? All right, I'm going to call us to a roll call vote, Ms. Lawler, and let Ms. Kiner know, because she's first, that she's up.
Good. Okay. Mrs. Kiner.
I think there's a very long gap.
I think it's a lag.
I think it's
Hold
on.
We got movement.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Oh. Mr. Anderson. Okay. Ms. Broculio.
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman.
Yes.
Mrs. Gerard.
Yes.
Mr. Gauss.
No.
Mrs. Kober.
Well, we know how far back we are then.
Mr. Kober.
No.
Mrs. McGuire Bruce.
Yes.
Board Chair Pickett.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-3-0.
Thank you. I do want to make some clarifications because there are some adjustments to our meetings moving forward. So those in the public and those watching, now that these have passed, you will see an adjustment in our Board of Ed meetings. We will continue to have public comment. However, Board of Ed members will be unable to address your comments unless they pertain to board business. We do welcome public feedback, so please continue to email us and share your feedback so we can address those issues and concerns in our board meetings. Moving forward, all Board of Ed discussions will be about board business. We're going to do our best to model a business meeting that focuses on the mission and the outcomes of our district. All right. New business. Can I have a motion to cancel the regular Board of Ed meeting on April 14th, 2026? This is during our spring break.
Don't take us back.
So we are asking to cancel this meeting, and you'll see next we are scheduling another meeting. So do I have a motion to cancel the April 14th meeting?
Motion to cancel the regular Board of Ed meeting on April 14th.
Moved by Ms. McGuire Bruce.
Second.
Ooh, seconded by Ms. Gerard. Any discussion on that? Perfect. Do we do a hand vote? Thank you. All in favor of canceling the April 14th meeting, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All against? 0. Those abstaining? Mr. Kober, 1. So that motion passes. We will be canceling that meeting. But now we do not need to take a vote, I don't believe, for me to announce that we are having a special meeting of the Board of Ed on April 8th. It's been mentioned multiple times to the public. We will be receiving ed specs for the new pre-ref work. That meeting will be to go over all of that work and for us to make some decisions around the pre-ref work moving forward. Again, it'll be a special meeting, so there will not be open public comment. It is just for us to get that information. So that is a special meeting of the Board of Ed on April 8th. Yes, Mr. Kober.
Madam Chair, just a quick comment here, and again, just for the public that are watching, just so you understand. So normally for meetings, there's legally 3 ways we can call a meeting. One is the chairperson can call a meeting with proper notice, which is what's occurring. The second method is 3 sitting board members can request a meeting in writing. And then the third way is by bylaw or policy, which is how we normally set up our regular meetings, which our policy number just changed. But again, that's the 3 methods of meeting. So it doesn't require full board action or a vote, but those are the 3 ways. And obviously, that meeting would supplement the meeting that was just canceled earlier.
Thank you, Mr. Kober. All right, we will move to board committee reports. We're going to start with Ms. Kiner and patiently wait for her to unmute with her update on the curriculum committee, which is an important one. Mute with her update on the curriculum committee.
Can you hear me? Our February 25th curriculum meeting centered on a presentation by talented and gifted program teacher Brian Zawodniak. He gave an overview and a brief history of the program at JFK, which is funded by an endowment. February 25th curriculum meeting centered on a presentation by talented and gifted program teacher Brian Zawodniak. He gave an overview and a brief. Okay, so I'm not sure what's going on now. All right, so I guess I'll do the mute my YouTube. Hold on. An overview and okay, so I'm not sure. All right, let me see if this works. Our February 25th curriculum meeting centered on presentation by talented and gifted program teacher, Brian Zawodniak. He gave an overview and a brief history of the program at JFK, which is funded by an endowment of $4 million gifted to JFK by Abe and Eve Simkovitz in 2012. Some areas of concern expressed by the committee members were the qualifying procedures and consistent measurements used to identify students for the program and possible constraints in identifying students from multilingual families and those of economically disadvantaged backgrounds. 2, the apparent lack of a solid outreach to parents, fifth grade teachers, and students in order to educate them on the offerings and the qualifying procedures. 3, the model being a pull-out model which limits more than half of Mr. Zawodniak's students. To meet with him, a solid outreach to parents, a minimum of 3 times per week. And I'm sorry, I know you can hear that and I can't turn it off. 4, the lack of available data measuring the success of the program and the outreach employed to inform the community. Mr. Zawodniak expressed the need for new MacBooks for his students. A decision was made to postpone voting on his request until the committee has had an opportunity to further study and reimagine an enhanced course of study, qualifying procedures, and expanding the community's awareness of the TAG program. Ms. Middleton will be forwarding her questions and ideas to the principal of JFK, Ms. Sarah Brown, and to Mr. Zawodniak. We will be further discussing and examining the TAG program at our April 29th meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for March 18th at 5 p.m. in Ms. Middleton's office.
Alex, the audio. And I skipped over policy committee. I checked you off, and I will now go over to Ms. Berculio.
I'm starting to take it a little personal at this point. The next policy committee meeting is Tuesday, March 17th, or St. Patty's Day for those that celebrate, at 5 p.m. at Enfield High School in the main office conference room due to an event following, and we will primarily be looking at the 1000 series.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Longy. Move on to liaison reports, starting with school updates. Ms. Gerard, again, I will remind folks that this is an opportunity for us to share those updates of what we do around the schools. So, Ms. Gerard.
Perfect. So I'll start with, even though Enfield Street School is not my school, but it's my child's school, I won't. We did the Read Across America. I was lucky enough to go to my daughter's class and read, and it was a fantastic experience, and the kids were so excited. So if you were able to go and read or talk to your littles about it, they were the happiest kids I've ever seen, just to see a parent or somebody new come in. So it was a lot of fun. Parkman, real quick, just an update. I don't really have too much. Parkman PTO meeting. They're meeting currently right now, but also on April 21st, 7 p.m. via Zoom. And then the Music Fest, I was able to go to the Music Fest because my son was in chorus. Sorry, Amanda, that they made you cry. But it was an absolutely fantastic experience. Like Olivia had mentioned, it was really kind of cool, and a lot of people mentioned it was really cool to see that transition from how the kids were, you know, in fifth grade and moving forward, and all of the volunteers that really helped out, the student volunteers that helped out with that was absolutely, it was really great. I was able to also go to math night, which is a fun one in our house at Parkman, and Olivia was also there helping. I know she's gone, but she was, I mean, it was just so great to see her throughout the week and volunteering in those spaces. So the kite update, just real quick, I'll kind of throw myself into this. So they had a meeting on March 4th, I believe. They have a lot of different things happening right now, but the biggest things that stand out, our Puzzle Connections event is on Saturday, March 28th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. at Alcorn School Gym. This event is for ages 13 and up, and registration is required. It's a great opportunity for students to come out and meet new kids as well, socialize, or kind of do something fun. So Parent Leadership Academy is moving forward. They have had over a month of classes so far, and they have been visited so far by the Board of Education, Town Council, other people within the community, and on Thursday will be their community resource fair, and I will be there. I'm very excited. The parent ambassadors are working really hard on how they can create better school-family connections. They will be attending local events in the community, also partnering with local playgroups and helping to create a more welcoming spaces for families. Play and Science Night is on March 25th from 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. at Enfield High School. Please make sure that you also register for this event. Transition to Kindergarten is on April 7th at JFK from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Kelsey, write that down. This is a great space to hear more information about what to expect when starting kindergarten. This is great for parents to come out and get ready for their kiddos to transition. First Readers Trivia Night was so much fun. It was a blast, and it was a great success for them. Their first ceremony, like you had mentioned, is March 17th. PlayLab had their first event with children and families that attend the FRC playgroups. Students from the high schools that are doing early education or looking into a career in early education helped with this event. There were 63 I'm pretty sure this number is right, but it was 63 students between Enfield High School, Suffield, and South Windsor. They do have a video on their website that you can actually check out about this event. And FRC has openings for both their playgroups as well as their Circle of Security class for parents. I know I took that class myself, and I believe Mr. Kober did as well. Correct? And it is a fantastic class. It's a free class for parents. They do provide dinner and childcare, which is a huge bonus for something like this. So that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Gerard. Any other school updates? Ms. McGuire-Bruce?
I know many of us were out reading last week for Read Across America Week. I had the pleasure of reading at my old home away from home, Hazardville Memorial, as well as Enfield Street School. All the classes I read to were so engaged, which does not happen without great teachers. They work on routines and expectations so that when we come into the classroom, we see children who are engaged and excited for us to be there. So thank you to Mrs. Long, Mrs. Tracy, and Mrs. Willanlin for welcoming me into your classrooms and for all your hard work and dedication with our students. Very briefly, important news at Enfield Street School. Their readathon begins next week. It goes from March 16th to 30th. This event not only encourages reading, but also serves as a fundraiser for their school. The fundraiser will support continued growth of decodable libraries, social emotional tools for the classroom, and supports for the restorative practice initiatives that we've been hearing about that they have upcoming. Look for the paperwork coming home. There will be a QR code to sign up to share with family and friends and instill that love of reading while raising some money for some worthwhile initiatives. And as always, more information can be found in the Gazette. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Kober?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So one of the last meetings, I think I mentioned, like a lot of our PTOs are looking for volunteers. I just wanted to highlight the Barnard Crandall PTO. They're looking for a member of their e-board. I believe they're still looking for a co-president. So any parents looking to get involved, they definitely need you. And also the Barnard Family Fun Night will be next week, Wednesday, March 18th. So I just want to make sure the families are tracking that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to let Ms. Kiner do a report on Crandall while she gets unmuted and comes on. Reminder that conferences are tomorrow and early release.
This is from Pierre. The sign-ups for the 5th grade dessert for dinner has been sent out to all our 5th grade students. Please see the flyer in the newsletter or the flyer that was sent home. This Wednesday, March 11th, will be an early release day with lunch due to afternoon and evening parent-teacher conferences. Students will be dismissed at 12:05 p.m. And lastly, from Mr. Dupere, report cards were issued on Friday, March 6th via Parent Square. If you did not receive your child's report, please contact the main office. Also, I'd like to say that the next policy meeting for Head Start is going to be March 12th at 10 a.m. at Stowe School. And that's it for now.
Thank you, Ms. Kiner. Any other school updates? All right, joint facilities.
I'm going to take this one because it's quick. I'll let Ms. Gerard do the long one. Canceled Thursday, March 12th, and the next meeting is Thursday, April 9th.
Joint insurance, Mr. Macchio, there has not been one scheduled yet. We are still working on a policy potentially, but nothing scheduled, correct?
Correct.
All right, thank you. Joint security.
I just sent her a message.
This coming Friday at 9:30 a.m. in the Skiddaker Room.
Awesome. And go ahead, Mr. Kober.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just one supplement for that. Obviously for the public, so generally our subcommittees are open to the public. Joint security is kind of unique in that most of the business is non-public. I do just want to share just a broad overview that one of the concerns regarding like traffic and school buses is coming up, and joint security will be getting a presentation regarding that. So that might be coming forward, and if a decision or change is announced, obviously that will be made public. But concerns from parents and staff and groups on Facebook about things happening and people passing school buses, that is something we're aware of and tracking, and there will be more to follow on that.
Thank you, Mr. Kober. I was going to follow up on that one. I appreciate you being an active committee member. Pre-ref.
So I don't have any current updates. Our meeting is happening tomorrow at 6 p.m. in the Skidco room. But I just want to remind folks that they can go online to our district website and look up all of that information, the presentations. They can ask questions. They can email. They're actively looking at that email, and they're responding to people. So I want to make sure that folks are actually getting the questions that they have answered. If you're not also getting a response, obviously you can message myself, you can message Ms. Cushman and Mr. Gauss, because they are also within that committee as well. So please feel free to reach out to one of us if you have any questions.
Thank you. And I will add again, oh, go ahead, Mr.
I just wanted to add to what
Go ahead.
Mr. Ard was saying, is it's really important to read that and realize that we are talking about saving a lot of money by building schools. It sounds counterintuitive. It will cost us a lot more money if we do not do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gauss. I appreciate that. And I will just give my other reminder. We just did this, but there will be a special meeting of the Board of Ed on April 8th to review those ed specs. So an opportunity to hear about that as well. All right, before moving to items 14 and 15 on our agenda, now that we approve the 9000 series, these procedures will be adjusted moving forward. So not tonight, but moving forward, these items will be part of a consent agenda in new business. So this will expedite our meeting. All information will still be included in our publicly posted agenda packet, but it will be a shortened version in a consent agenda similar to our town council counterparts. Do I have a motion to approve the regular Board of Ed meeting minutes for February 24th, 2026?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved by Ms. McGuire-Bruce, seconded by Mr. Kober. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You don't have to keep your hand up. I got you all 8. She's like, what are they doing?
I did.
Thank you.
She's like, oh, wait.
I saw maybe a nod. Yay! 9 in favor, none against. That motion passes. And do we have a motion for approval of accounts and payroll?
I make a motion to approve the certification of expenditures for February 2026.
Second.
Moved by Ms. McGuire-Bruce, seconded by Ms. Gerard. Mr. Kober?
So just, again, a quick comment. I know we mentioned this before, but in order, as this term, we've been expediting our meetings. That information is now included in the agenda packet for board members and the public to review. And going forward, it'll even be in the consent agendas. It'll even go more expeditiously, but it will still remain publicly visible to anybody that wants to go in there and see the monthly expenditures.
Thank you, Mr. Kober. All in favor? She had her hand. I saw her hand. I did. Yep. 9 in favor, none against. Motion passes.
I make a motion to approve the certification of grants and Head Start expenditures for the month of February 2026.
Second.
So moved by Ms. McGuire-Bruce, seconded by Ms. Gerard. Any discussion? All in favor? That looks like 9 in favor, none against. Motion passes. Any correspondence and board communications? Nope.
Already discussed.
Perfect. Thank you. Do I have a motion to
Madam
Yep.
Chair, I introduce a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kober, seconded by Ms. Gerard. All in favor? Any discussion? No. All in favor? That looks like 9 in favor, none against. Meeting adjourned.